Okay, hey guys. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I think we need a little bit of help from you this time. For some reason, my microphone and my audio stuff just decided to have a little break, and so we're trying to figure out how to make this all work. But I'm very excited today to talk with a very successful, very talented, intelligent young artist, Brennan Blankenship. So, without further ado, and hopefully we can bring her in. Let's bring her in here, and hopefully we can hear her and she can hear us. Hi, Brennan. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can
Okay,
you
good.
hear?
I can hear you, and hopefully everybody can hear us, and hopefully everybody can see us, and that we can make this work. So, sorry about that. I have no idea what in the world was happening there while we were trying to get everything set up, but it's always good to jump on 10 to 15 minutes early in case something like this happens, right?
Right. Sound checks are important even in the opera world.
This is true. Sound checks, whether we're virtual or in person, are proving to be incredibly helpful. So sorry
Yeah.
about that, but I think that for the time being, at least, and maybe if somebody who's watching could chime in. In fact, I'm going to go to my Facebook profile and share this over to my fan page. And if you'd like to share go to my Facebook profile and share it over to your stuff, that would be great. We get as many people on here as possible. I think
All right.
that would be good.
So
Um,
I just shared I pressed share. I should know this.
yeah, you just go
Okay,
look at
I did
the
it.
old guy teaching the young soprano how to.
I did it. I did it. I did it. I just, yeah. Hi.
I'm not sure what my Facebook thing is doing. It's. I think maybe Google Chrome is having a little bit of like
A
uh,
meltdown.
a meltdown. Yeah, I can't even find a way to access my Facebook stuff. I don't know. Well, things like this are always interesting and fun. And then, okay, so now it looks like
And that's why it's on YouTube later.
that's right. That's why, in case anyone needs to ever find any of my archived shows, you go to the youtube.com/Weston Hurt, and you can find all of our archived episodes there. Um, looks like I'm going to try this one last time, and then I promise you. Okay, so share. Um, what's interesting is that sometimes I find that I can share things to a page, and other times I find that when I try to share to a page, um, it gets rather testy and it won't allow me to share it. It says, you know, something different. Anyway,
Oh yeah, I can't. I still haven't figured out how exactly to share from Instagram. Like it's connected to Instagram, but for some reason it's like sharing is like this, and it's very annoying. Kelly Gebhardt says that she can hear both of us,
oh, good.
so
Oh,
we're
thank
good.
you, Kelly. I'm so glad. Okay, I'm just not going to worry about it. This is streaming to my Weston Hurt profile. It's not currently streaming to Weston Hurt Baritone, but I don't know if you can do that from your side. I don't even know if you could, but I don't know. Whatever. Let's get into it.
Doubt it, but
So I am so glad to have you on the show. I have
have it
wanted,
here.
I know, I've wanted to try to reach out to a variety of different singers, but I also hope to soon begin to interview coaches and conductors and directors and find out their processes. But Brennan, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into singing? Where'd you grow up? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Sure. So I grew up primarily in the suburb of Spring, Texas. Um, as some of you may or may not know, I ended up going to the same high school that Weston did, and we had the same choir director and other teachers. We found out later, Mr. Tumlinson, if you're out there.
Randy Tomlinson, what an incredible educator and man. I miss him
Oh, I know,
dearly.
high quality teacher right there. So singing. My mom says that I've been singing as soon as I could talk. So I grew up singing Disney, as any true 90s kid does. Disney in the car. I learned how to harmonize by singing hymns at church with my mom because she's an alto. So she would always make up the alto line because she couldn't sing the soprano line. And I learned how to do that with her. And then I got to junior high and I was dazzled by the band. Like they have this presentation when you're in 5th grade and they're trying to get you to join an elective. So the choir sings and the band plays and the orchestra plays and the art's like, here's our art. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, band is so cool. Look at the drums. And she's like, no, you're going to be in choir because you won't stop singing. I was like, okay. So I joined choir. At that point, I'd been playing piano since I was 6, but I didn't like practicing. So sometime in junior high, I totally bombed a piano recital. Just like play, stop, couldn't remember, went back, play, stop, growled, couldn't remember, go back, play. Apparently, I don't remember any of this. Apparently, I slammed my hands on the piano. I was like, ah! And my mom took me out of piano then, and put me in voice lessons because I, quote, wouldn't shut up. So here we are. I'm still doing it. So I guess it was the right choice.
So let me ask you this. You obviously had a important realization or revelation in high school choir that led to a desire to pursue it more, actively, right?
I wish it's not really like aha, music is the answer. I'm a list person, and it was me kind of like taking all of those stupid tests they make you take to be like, how's your spatial reasoning skills? Are you good at business? Could you work in education? And mine was always like business, law, education, as far as like what I can do, and then what you're interested in. Performing, arts, education. I was like, oh, cool. So I made a list of like things I was interested in, and they were all performing things. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to do any of the things people told me I should be. I figured out that this music thing that I had been doing since I was 6 was definitely my favorite thing. I really, really, really love performing in costumes and characters. And so I looked at my skill set. I couldn't dance at the time, so Broadway was out. And I was way too classically trained by that point to even attempt to sing pop. So I was like, well, I've seen 4 operas. I liked them all. Thank you, HGO, High School Nights. And I don't know, picked opera. I was going to double major. That didn't help. That didn't work out at all. Here we are.
So when you decided, what were you going to double major in, by the way?
Art history, because that too is lucrative.
Okay, so you were in high school. You never joined band. You were in choir for all.
I never joined band, but if someone will teach me how to play the timpani, I would pay them money.
You still have that percussion drive that one day.
I love percussion. Yes. Put a timpani in it, guys. I'm going to like it 50 million times better. Doesn't really matter.
Wow. I had no idea about this. Interesting. So, out of curiosity, what voice type did you sing? What voice category were you in high school? Did you sing soprano 1, soprano 2, alto 1, alto 2? What'd you do?
I sang alto 1 most of the time. I did all-state freshman year as an alto 2, decided that was too low. Then I was alto 1 sophomore, junior year, made all-state that year. Then I went to soprano 2 senior year because I quit volleyball and my voice changed because I stopped yelling all the time, and switched to soprano 2. So, and I still sing all 3 of those parts in my church choir. So, yeah.
You're versatile, very versatile. Yeah. For those of you who you mentioned all-state, for people who are not familiar with the Texas Music Educators Association Texas All-State Choir process, it's an insanely competitive Like, I'm surprised that Netflix hasn't made a series out of that yet. Like, that would be an amazing you could just start with, like, the gigantic patch and then zoom out from there with, like I think it now starts with, like, over 12,000 people auditioning for it around the state at the district
I'm sure.
level, and, there's 4 different rounds. I think it goes district and then regionals and then pre-area and then area, and should you be one of the top, what is it, 4 or 5 at area, then you get to make the
Um,
choir, but then there's also, like, there's the women's choir and then there's the men's choir, but the mixed choir, the top sort of the thing that
mhm.
everybody hopes to get into is, like, you have to get in the top 5 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers have changed since there are so many more kids auditioning now.
Mhm.
So the numbers are even different than when I was doing it. They say like, uh, I don't know, but it's when I was in school, it was the top 10 kids from area in each room went on to all state. If you were in the top 4, you made it into the mixed choir. If you were in the last 6, you made it into the girls or boys choir. Um, I think it's now like the top 12 kids, it's just like a little more. So everything eh,
Expands.
expands.
Because
Yeah.
even between you and I, being at Klein Oak High School, my years, you had to make the top 18 at region to go on to area, and
Same.
you had to be in the top 5 at area to go on to state, and then you had to be in the top 5 at state to make the Texas All-State Choir. There was no women's choir or men's choir. There was just one mixed choir, and every part it was the same rules, so only the top 5. Anyway, all of this to say it's an insanely competitive process that people
And we
who have done
clearly
it
remembered everything about it because it was
because
so dramatic.
it's your whole life at that time, and I know for
Yeah.
me, when I made the Texas All-State Choir my junior year in high school, the first year I tried out for it, I had this, like, awakening where it was like, "This is what I'm meant to do. I must sing for the rest of my life. I can do" it was like this level of, like, acceptance in my own mind, and so for you, it helped you along your path, but based on these, personality assessment tests and so forth, you you
Yes.
you pushed law and order aside and decided to
Yes.
go into the chaotic mess that is a music major. So where did you end up going to undergrad?
So I went to undergrad at Pepperdine University, and that's actually where I had my aha moment. We did thoroughly modern Millie, and I had a named role, which was like unheard of for freshmen apparently. And was just one of the hotel girls for those of you who know the show.
Mm,
And we were, I think it was the last full dress rehearsal with the orchestra and everything. And I was about to go on for my first scene, and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I love the whole process of putting together a show, of learning the music, of doing the rehearsals, and then finally getting to show people the end product. Like that was my moment. I love performing.
wow.
So all I have to do to get to that point is worth it.
Mhm. And that was just your first year in undergrad.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
throughout your next did you finish in 4 years or I took a
Yeah. I finished in 4 years. I was on time.
that's good. Or maybe not, I don't know. You seemed very exhausted by that, reply.
Oh, I don't know why. But maybe I need coffee. I don't know. It's been raining here like 6 days in a row. So
So what did you have more performance opportunities, obviously, throughout your undergraduate career?
yeah, I when I was looking at schools, I made sure to choose programs that did not have graduate voice students
Oh,
out of any kind because I wanted the chance to perform. As I said, it's always been about performing for me. Um, so Pepperdine does not have a graduate program for the arts at all, which means all of the productions that we do, one opera and one musical, and then of course the theater kids do like all their plays, and we do all our choir concerts.
mhm,
We're all done by undergrads. So my first operatic role was the third spirit in Die
magic.
Zauberflöte.
Uh-huh.
We were dressed like Oshkosh Bagosh kids. Um,
That's adorable.
oh yeah. And then let's see, did a couple of chorus things. I was in Sweeney Todd in the chorus, which was awesome.
It's
Sweeney
one
Todd,
of my favorite shows. I think, well, my introduction to performing was Into the Woods, Stephen Sondheim.
right?
And ever since, I mean, that's still one of my dream roles is to sing Sweeney. I think it's such a cool show. So great.
It's a great show. And let's see, then I was Joe March in Little Women, which was a huge jump from like third spirit freshman year to Joe March junior year. Lots of trial by fire, but she's definitely one of my favorite roles I've ever played as a character. The music was difficult, but I love Joe as a character, so it was really fun to bring her to life with everybody at Pepperdine.
Yeah.
So
And what year was that?
that was my junior year. So
Which would have been
2000,
what?
I'm doing some math. 8, 9, 2010 or 11.
Okay. So
That
this was probably about 10,000 or 10,000,
10,
10 years, 10,000. No, this was like 10 years after the premiere. So it
yeah.
was relatively still a new piece.
Yeah, Mark Adamo came. We were one of the first colleges to do it. So Mark Adamo, we invited him out because it was February, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll leave New York for
Come to
Malibu
California.
in February." So he came down and held a master class and gave us some pointers. So
That's
it
great.
was really cool.
That's great. That's really cool. And then, obviously, at this point, you're in the Bachelor of Music Vocal Performance degree plan, yeah? That's what you
Mhm.
and so
Bachelor of Arts in yeah,
oh, okay, whatever Pepperdine's version of that, Smarty
yeah.
Pants version, whatever.
Okay.
So, moving forward, you knew that you wanted to continue to pursue the career, or you were just sort of like, "Well, I've gotten this far, I might as well keep going," or what was your thought process as you sort of began to wrap up your senior year? Or go into your senior year, right? Thinking ahead.
Oh, I was on the whole track of you've got to get into a graduate program, get into the top young artist programs. Like I was sold. I was like 1000% in it. I didn't even sing in the senior year opera. We did Die Fledermaus, and at that time I really just didn't like how Orlovsky felt.
Mm,
So I designed the makeup for Orlovsky instead and did that, and focused on all of my auditions, and I just kind of went whole hog on all those. um, I'm very competitive, so and driven, I think. So I was just like, here's the plan. I'm going to get into my grad school, and then I'm going to get into a young artist program right after, and blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Here's the plan.
mhm. And so where did you find yourself after Pepperdine?
I ended up at University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's colder than Texas. A lot
Um,
colder.
it it was such a shock to go from the paradise that is Malibu, California, to 8 months of winter. I've never driven in snow. I had no winter clothes. I lived with a Canadian, so she helped me find clothes. Um, yeah, it was a big culture shock going from Texas to California, and then again a big culture shock going from California to Minnesota. I may have cried in May, my first year, because it snowed May 10th.
Oh, no. Just when you were hoping for some respite from the
Yeah,
bitter season.
all the birds were back. The tulips were pushing through, and it snowed in May. I had a breakdown. It's fine.
Mm. And so how long were you in that program? 2 years?
2 years. I finished that one in 2 years.
Alright. And then what was the next step for you after that?
After that, I hit a bit of a roadblock. Um, I like according to that plan, right? I was supposed to have gotten into a young artist program at this point,
Mm,
and I was unsuccessful that audition season. The only job I got was singing in the chorus at HGO, which was great because it's my home company. It's where I grew up going to. I could move back home while I figured out my life and still sing. Um, so I took the job, and Um, moved back home and sang Othello. Well, I didn't sing Othello. Simon O'Neill sang Othello. Um,
Yeah.
but I really got to experience, a house level opera as a chorister, which was really cool. I mean, I got to hear the best singers in the world and stand, feet away from them, or help them up or do whatever I was supposed to do in the chorus
Yeah.
and really learn from them and learn from the directors that worked with us and kind of learn how an A house functions.
What do you think was some of the biggest takeaways by standing, 3 to 5 feet away from 3 to 5 feet away from, some of these amazing artists that Houston brings in? What were some of your surprises or takeaways from hearing that type of singer, up close like that?
Um, what comes to mind is again that first show, Othello,
Mhm.
and Eileen Perez was singing her, yeah, Desdemona, and that was her role debut. That was her
Mhm.
first Desdemona, um, and every time she got slapped to the ground, I was feet away from her every time Simon O'Neill, slapped her to the ground, and she sings "A terra si," and then something else because I don't know the words, but she would sing that differently every single night. And every single night it broke my heart. And
Mm.
I'm standing there just like, don't cry, you gotta run across stage here in a second. I'm crying right now. It's fine. It was just really good every freaking time. And to see it was just to hear that artistry and every night was amazing. Christine Gerke, I had a moment like that with her as well in Götterdammerung. We're just standing there while she's like, I'm gonna curse this spear and and the high note was always amazing, but what always got me was when she went it was ba ba, and she let her voice obviously switch registers,
Right.
and oh, I got chills every time. The chorus is supposed to turn around and like talk to each other, and so we'd always just turn around to each other and say, "Oh,
That was so good.
so good."
It's
I'm not
interesting.
crying, you're crying. God.
No, that's amazing. I think it's so important for young artists and young singers to have that experience because, as we go through our education and we sing with one another as colleagues, we're basically, a freshman, if there's a graduate program, they might be singing with somebody who's like 5 years older than them. But
Mhm.
the experience to perform alongside with a, you know, stage animal veteran singer who's been doing this for 15 years, 20 years, whatever, it's a completely different experience. And it's the
Mhm.
thing that we are all trying to learn to do in that education process. And
Mhm.
yet it's interesting because even when we get, artists to come in and present master classes, rarely do they ever perform for us. Every once in a while, and when I get asked to come in to do master classes, I always say, like, "Would you want me to sing a couple things for him?" I think that would, "Oh my God, would you mind?" I'm like, "No, I think it's really great. I think it would be, really helpful for them to hear me perform, and before I just start sort of spouting my, ideas and thoughts at them, it might
Mhm.
be good for them to also hear that, oh, this guy actually knows what he's talking about because listen to what he just did. That's great. So yeah, I love that that had such an impact on you. So coming through your undergraduate and graduate program, you mentioned roles like Joe March, and you mentioned uh, Orlovsky didn't feel good, so you passed on that. But
Yeah.
these mezzo roles, when did you find people or teachers or you or whatever putting you into that sort of mezzo soprano fach?
It started in undergrad. My teacher, Louise Lofquist, she is also a concert level pianist. So she'd be playing the piano right in I think the secondo passaggio, and she'd always listen to me and just make this face like, I don't know. I think you're a mezzo. I don't know. So, the first couple of years we went with mezzo stuff and experimented with some soprano stuff, but we landed on mezzo when I sang Una Voce,
Mm,
and it was easy-ish for me. Um, but I don't know, it's just kind of I was just kind of there. I was just told that I was a high lyric mezzo. Um, and I accepted it because, let's be honest, there are fewer mezzos, and that sounds like a good idea to me. Where
right.
the top I am. Um, Went to my grad school, and my grad teacher agreed. Um, Adriana Zabala,
Hmm.
she's now at Yale.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just I, I didn't question it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that the repertoire fit my voice well too. I liked the high flying mezzo rep. I liked all the boys' pants rolls, because I like feeling powerful on stage. So I liked all of the playing dudes, and playing ingenues wasn't like something that came easily to me. So it seemed like a natural fit. Like my voice likes it, my personality likes it. Everyone says that I'm a mezzo, so I'll be a mezzo. Like there was never a thought in my mind in school like, are you a soprano? Like that was
You never
never
questioned it.
no.
Did you
It
have
wasn't
any?
a factor.
And who were your professional heroes back in those days? I mean, there had to have been recordings of people or artists that you looked up to and admired? And did you have any?
Um,
Yeah,
oh, I love Joyce.
Joyce
Like,
Donato. Who doesn't?
you
She's
know,
amazing.
um, I bought tickets to see her sing Barbiere with Juan Diego Flores and Nathan Gunn. And I
Hmm.
couldn't get anybody else to go with me on a Sunday because they all had homework. And I was like, whatever. So I bought like an $80 ticket, which was so expensive for me then. And I sat in between all these old ladies in the front of the balcony, just like, like these people are so good. They're so amazing.
Hmm.
Um, so I primarily listen to her. Um, and I listened to whoever else my teachers told me to. So I listened to Teresa Berganza
Mm.
a lot. Um, and sometimes I listen to Victoria de Los Angeles because I like Spanish and she sings in Spanish. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
and yeah, that's it pretty much. Those two were my two go-to example. Oh, and Marilyn Horn. Um,
That's a different voice. That's a little bit of a different voice category. I mean, granted, it's interesting to think that Marilyn Horne and Joyce DiDonato sing a lot of the same repertoire, that
right,
Rossini florid stuff. But wow, if you think of the timbre of those two instruments and the just the sheer weight of each one of those instruments is
right.
quite different vehicles.
Which is
Um,
why I listened more to Joyce than I did to Marilyn Horn.
sure,
I
sure.
listened to Marilyn Horn a bit more in grad school
Uh-huh.
than yeah.
And you mentioned Una Voce Poco Fa. So things like Rosina, Cenerentola.
Yeah, I didn't look at Cenerentola, until after
Uh-huh.
school. I looked at, like, Romeo from Capuletti Montecchi, he felt great. I looked at all the boys, like I said, all the boys. So is it a page? I probably learned it. Um,
Hmm.
Worked on Carabino a lot. Um, who else? What's that kid's name in Les Huguenots? Urbain.
Uh-huh.
Um, and who's the other kid and the other Romeo?
So, and up to this point, let's say technically, did you feel like what you were working on vocally was merely utilizing your natural voice, and your natural voice wanted to move? It was agile. You didn't feel like you were doing anything. I don't know. I mean, did you feel like you were singing in a way that, looking back on it, You were like, yeah, that I just yeah, if I were to go back in time, I wouldn't have changed anything, or what would you change looking back on it now, or what were your thoughts on that process between undergrad and then through graduate school vocally that was sort of keeping you on this path? Technically, how did that line up with the repertoire that you were singing, and then how it led you to, like, let's say 2 years ago?
Right. So knowing what I know now about what it feels like to be truly singing freely, I wouldn't say that I ever felt like that ever. Um, in my school years,
Hmm.
I thought I did, and it got better and it got more and more free, but I was putting a lot of fake color on my sound.
Hmm.
And, like, I'd have moments where I would sing a coloratura passage perfectly, and people are like, "Oh, yeah, your voice is meant for coloratura." But then I wouldn't be able to do it as well a second time or third time, and I didn't understand, oh, yeah, Brian Seabell, thank you. Um, so it was just it was always frustrating because sometimes I'd have moments of like, "Oh, this was great. You sang it great. It was easy. I felt good." And then other times I tried to sing it, it was just forced, and I never understood really the difference between forcing it and not forcing it. And
And
um
where do you think you were forcing it from? Like, when you say forced, what does that mean?
I think I was trying to control it in my throat a lot. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Um so yeah, I'm also I want to fix everything with my brain, and I don't think I gave myself enough time, and I honestly didn't practice enough in undergrad. Like, I'm gonna be honest with everybody. Yo soy no practico. Actually, no estás no practicando. No estoy no anyway. So I did not practice a lot then, and so I didn't really focus. I didn't understand the necessity to focus on technique and focus on technical skills. I thought I could just like practice for half a sec
Mm.
and then work on the song. Um, and that that may have been my fault. That I just didn't quite understand the importance of that. But
Here's a little throw out to Claudia Friedlander's book, The Singer's Audition and Career Handbook. There's this great cartoon in it. Have you seen this one?
I love this artist. I
Yeah.
love it.
So
She's
it
great.
says, "How do you draw so well? Practice. It must be an innate gift, a gift from God. It's practice. I'll
Practice.
never understand how some people are so talented. It's a mystery. It's practice."
It's practice. Well, I mean, I had skated by on my like natural abilities all throughout high school. I never had to practice that much.
Yeah.
Learning music was really easy for me at that level because hashtag piano. Um, so I never learned that how to be diligent.
And I don't think that your story at this point is too different from many others. I mean, I
No.
think, you know, the majority of people who see an opera and get to hear that experience live and start to understand that their voice can kind of start to sound like that if they do these things. And sometimes that might include too much jaw tension, or sometimes that might include too much tongue tension, or whatever it might be. You mentioned, would you say not falsifying, but you did something with coloring your voice in a way that felt like fake or something?
Yeah, I had well, I know what it was. I had a really tight jaw and a really tight tongue because I was trying to to make this operatic sound in a way that I thought you made it.
Uh-huh.
And the work that I did after school, and especially the work that we've done in the past 2.5 years, has really helped get
Well, I should say that the work that we have done. So about 2.5 years ago, um, I keep mentioning my mom on this show, but it's funny how instrumental she has always been in different aspects of my life, whether it has like driven me crazy or been incredibly helpful. But there was a phone call one day where she was like, "Do you know this girl? Her name is Brennan Blankenship. She was one of our students at Klein Oak High School, and I think she's going to Germany to like do some singing stuff or something. I don't know, but she's looking for something, and I don't know. Maybe you could help her." And I was like, "No, who? What?" And she said, "Yeah, take a look." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'll meet for coffee or something and maybe chat and see what's going on." And the rest is history. I think when we had an opportunity to sort of meet and get to know one another, like you said, we had so many similarities growing up in the same hometown and being involved in the same. We went to the same high school. We were in the same high school choir program, and both pursuing the same career. And I think it for at least on my end, it really clicked how easy it was to get along and to work together. But I have to say, or you tell me, you tell everyone, what was one of the first things that I said when I heard you sing for the first time?
Are you a soprano?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't know if I made that gesture and said it that exact way,
No,
but
you're not a soprano. I think it
yeah,
was.
I said, "Are you sure you're not a soprano?" And then what did you say?
No, I'm not a soprano. I tried being a soprano 2 years ago and it didn't work. I'm a high lyric mezzo and I don't want to go down this road again.
And I'm pretty sure at that moment I was like, "Okay, cool. We'll see how that goes." And I have to say, things being as they were, it didn't not go well. Um,
Yeah, it
at
worked
that
out.
point, I think you had done the Berlin Opera Academy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
before we met, I just come back from the Berlin Opera Academy where I sang Third Lady and she was definitely in the basement for me.
Yeah,
Um,
there's not too many other. I mean, there are some. Don't get me wrong, but that's certainly a mezzo mono role.
yeah, and they were like, "Oh, you're a better second lady." And I was like, "I
I wonder
know."
why.
Um, and then and then the next year I did Carabino. He was cool.
That's right. That was through the Canto program with
Yes.
Leora and Lucy.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that was in Louisville, Kentucky. That was one of the first.
Yes.
Yeah,
The first one in Louisville. And for anybody who's watching, great program for any singer of all levels. They're great.
yeah, they really are. They're very helpful.
Mhm.
Um, so we and you remind me. I mean, from the teacher's standpoint, I mean, I work with a lot of different people, but from the work that you and I did, in my mind, it was like we were on a path, and we were sort of honing your audition package, which primarily comprised of like that high lyric mezzo stuff, and
Mhm.
you would do. I think you did numerous auditions, and then talk to me a little bit about how that went, and what are also some of the changes or adjustments technically that you and I started doing. Obviously from your perspective, I would like to hear you talk about what was that change like, and what were the things that I was having you work on that you felt like you really needed to make adjustments within during that like first year.
Well, that's hard because I feel like you tell me the same things every year. I just get better at them,
Which are.
which are typically more airflow. Have my voice right on the air a whole lot more. We worked a ton on vowel refinement, as in singing the vowels easily and how to. I think I was trying to feel the space with my tongue instead of lifting my actual soft palate. So we work a lot on making sure that lift is maintained all the time without pulling my tongue back, without letting my jaw get involved, um, and staying on the air and letting every note vibrate and every note have the space and every note have the energy. And those seem to be the overarching four things we work on with whatever exercise we have, which are they're good. But yeah, that's I think narrowing to those four things is really what kind of clicked. we worked a lot
Well,
on
and that makes sense with what you
vowels.
said earlier, that you were feeling that you were falsifying your tone from before with
Mhm.
too much jaw tension, too much tongue tension. I'm not sure how you used to think about vowels or what you or if you ever thought about them other than just to pronounce the text. I mean, I know you didn't you do like a language an intensive language study in Italy as well as Germany?
I did. I think I think the year wait, the year before Berlin, I, um, didn't wanna do this very expensive pay to sing, so I turned it down, and decided because I decided it was cheaper for me to just go to Italy and take Italian classes in Italy and learn Italian more, so I did.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think the way I was singing vowels was not how to sing this vowel as a singer, but how to get the IPA diction right. Um, and that was and I that still haunts me sometimes.
Well, yeah, I've heard many a teacher, and it's certainly I have found it in my own performing that we learn rules in diction classes, and we
Mhm,
learn what IPA symbols, you know, need to define the vowel as.
mhm,
And if we go into further grammatic study, we understand pronunciation, in a conversation sort of level. Singing is not like that, right? I
oh, no.
mean, if you try to sing in French the way that somebody who would speak French, you're gonna be tied up. You're gonna be completely um, muscularly drawn in. And I
Mhm,
think that while obviously we want to confuse the listener to believe that we are native fluent speakers of whatever country and language that we are currently singing in, it has to come from a place of vocal freedom. And that has to be sort of how do we allow for, optimal resonance on every vowel throughout the entire range
mhm,
while communicating, the text.
yeah.
So it's tricky. And so, yeah, talk a little bit about that. What were some of the things and adjustments that you had to make that you found that you were bringing over? Because, you kind of have this, um, all the boxes are checked to make it sometimes a bit of a frustrating experience because you're so intelligent, because because you're so competitive, because you're so driven, and sometimes those things actually don't line up in a way that's like, "Aha, there you go. This was so easy to do." You're like, "But that's not right. I have to make sure that it's this, and this is not right." And I was like, "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo." So what from your side, what are some of those adjustments that you've had to make? Gracie wants to come in. I gotta let so you talk. I'm gonna let Gracie in real quick.
Um, I think accepting the fact that what you learn in those IPA diction courses in school is not how you sing it. That was I think we were working on that vowel matching exercise,
Mhm.
and the revelation that, um, "ooh" is "ooh, ooh," and not "ooh" like you do in choir was, I think, the biggest one out of all of them was just like, "Oh, I can still ooh, I can still sing ooh, but, like, my mouth is way more open than it ever was in choir, ever in my entire life. I can still you say, ah, ooh is just ah, but rounder."
Mhm.
And, um I think that's like the biggest difference from what you learn, like, this is an ooh vowel to, like, how do you actually sing operatically sing an ooh vowel was yeah, that was the biggest, like, aha. Oh,
Yeah,
so every
I talk consistently with my students that choral music is where I got my start and what inspired me in the classical music realm to be an introduction to everything else, right? And I
Mhm,
love choral music. However, as a soloist, you have to understand that it's purposefully singing in a different way than what you would sing like in a choir. Not
mhm,
to say that singing in a choir is bad and singing as a soloist is good, or the other way around. It's to understand the differences that one must purposefully do as a soloist. When you're trying to sing in a 3,000, 4,000 seat house and cut over an 80-piece orchestra, there's going to be some different types of resonance that's involved other than on the opposite end of the spectrum, matching vowels with, let's say, 15 other women or men or whoever in your section that are all trying to sing on the same pitch on the same vowel to sing in tune. They're two very different sort of rules and regulations. And so I do think that people who come from a strong choral background, there's that hurdle that they have to sort of get past and sort of give themselves permission to, like you said, you can think ooh in your brain all day long, but like if you shape it like you would in a choir, we're going to lose resonance, and we're not going to find the same type of freedom that we would, um, you know, in an O vowel or an A vowel.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, that's interesting to hear. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad that clicked.
Yes, that clicked. I teach it to all my students.
It's good.
Have the same
So
exercise.
So one of the first significant and most recent things that you as a performer had an opportunity to do, which I will probably always remember the phone call when you got the offer, was to, well, you tell them where did you spend last summer?
Last summer, I was at Marilla doing the world premiere of Jake Heggie's latest opera, If I Were You. I played it was a Faustian story, and I played the devil. Um, yep, that's what it did, period.
So it's kind of amazing that you had the opportunity to skip over programs like Des Moines or Chautauqua or Central City or St. Louis. Many of the programs in this country are sort of thought of as like a tiered system where there are pay to sings and followed by sort of entry level programs. Some companies like Chautauqua and Central City have like an apprentice level and a studio level. Wolf Trap has a studio level down as well as their young artist level, and then um, kind of at the top, they sit these, Glimmerglass and Santa Fe and San Francisco Opera's training program, Marilla. And how cool is it that you had the opportunity to not just walk in, you know, to that type of program, but to walk in the front door and to sing essentially the title role in this world premiere by one of the hottest, most amazing, 21st century composers writing right now. Talk a little bit about what that experience was like and what sort of challenges vocally that posed and how you sort of worked through those and what the experience ended up bringing for you.
Well, I mean, obviously, when I got the phone call, I cried. Tears of joy. Mark was like, I was talking to Mark Morash, and he's like, "Where are you right now?" I was like, "I'm at breakfast in Pittsburgh for another audition." He's like, "Probably don't cry. People will wonder what's wrong with you." Okay. But to walk in there after so many years of bitter disappointment um, it was so cool. It was so cool to be surrounded by singers who, work as hard as I do and, you know, um, have similar experience, and to work with some of the top of the line people who think you're good. I think the biggest
Like
difference,
who?
like Kevin Murphy and Martin Katz and Alan Darling and Sherry and everybody, to just be there, and everyone automatically assumes that you are good. You deserve to be there and you are talented. And I'd never been treated like that. I'd never been treated like, yes, you are a good singer and we think that your artistic choices are worth time. That you have, you have the voice, you have the talent. We know you do. We're here to help you be better. um I felt like everywhere else I had to prove myself, or I was so far more experienced than all of my colleagues that I wasn't learning as much or whatever, what have you. um but to be treated like you're already good, you're already good, we're going to make you better, like even better than that, um
Mhm.
was it would that was my favorite part of Marilla. One of my favorite parts was just having the confidence to be like, Right. I am good. Yeah. Okay. I do work hard. I do learn my music and I do practice and
Brian email says post a YouTube clip so we can hear you sing. You don't have
okay.
any of your stuff on YouTube?
I have mezzo stuff on YouTube. So I might have taken it.
Well, we haven't even gotten to that point yet in the conversation. But yeah,
No.
Brian, there is some stuff of her and the world. There is some stuff of her singing. But yeah, so talk a little bit about what that experience was like doing If I Were You, working with, I mean, Jake came out there, right? You got to work with him. And I mean,
I mean, Jake lives out there. Yeah. And Gene came out for the beginning and the end.
Gene
Um,
Shear, the librettist.
Gene Shear, the librettist. I mean, it's any artist's dream, performer's dream to be part of the creative process of a brand new show, right? To
I've never got
be,
to do that.
it's amazing to be one of the creators of the role and have the back and forth with the composer and the librettist and what do they think and why what and to be able to ask Gene, why am I saying my dogs are barking? I don't get it. It was an aria and I was playing a New Jersey hairdresser. Well, I was playing the devil as a New Jersey hairdresser. And then, I was like, my dogs are barking. Like, what does that even mean? He goes, my dogs are feet. She's talking about her feet. And I was like, oh, I would have no idea. That's New Jersey dialect. Like, I'm from Texas. I don't know.
You never call your feet your dogs.
Yeah, apparently. And, to have, I mean, at one point we were working on what we call the Ice Cube aria, which Jamie Barton has recorded. If you want to go to Jake Hegge's website, it'll get you there. Um, and to have Jake essentially like dancing around me, trying to get the mood that he wanted out of the piece. I mean, it was awesome. It was so cool. You're not really working. It's like working with a conductor, except the person created it. And so they're trying to draw what they want, what they heard in their head from what you're able to do. And you surprise them and it was really great. It was, like I said, I love performing. I love creating stuff and to play the devil. Like, come on, she's great. To be evil on stage, but like not be the mezzo, like the big mama, like evil witch, like like lady was. It was great. I sound like
So
a ballet girl right now. Sorry.
no, you don't. No, you don't. So talk to me about the range of the role, how it felt vocally, technically. Um, was it just like perfect for you? Was it too low? Was it too high? Was it what how did you feel about it?
Going into Marilla, I thought it felt great. Um, the work we did before I got there, and then once we got into the theater, I struggled a bit in my lower middle to really get it into the theater. I had to do a lot of like focusing and a lot of this to make the really really lower parts kind of like chest mix, like low chest mix, really cut in the theater. And I didn't realize, like, I was singing it well, it felt good, but I didn't
Mm.
realize that it wasn't quote unquote loud enough. And I got it there, and that's fine. Most of it felt really good, but there were definitely some parts that were a little low for me to feel comfortable with how loud it needed to be in that with the orchestration and stuff like that.
Well, and let's
So
say, yeah, I don't know if I mean, on one hand, sure, one could describe it as being loud, but the other side of that is like, and from the audience perspective, which I was honored to be a part of when I came out to see your opening night. Um, they're just what I recall was that in that lower, like you say, in that sort of chesty kind of range, to cut over the orchestra, first of all, that we're not in a pit. The orchestra, the theater that they used, I don't know if they had a pit or what, or the set didn't allow it, or
there's no
yeah.
pit.
So yeah, I mean, it was kind of a lot to ask with the orchestra being so present to be able to cut through that. But going back to my first lesson with you when I asked that dangerous question of, "Are you sure you're not a soprano?" Because every once in a while, you would say, well, let's say this. What are your fun, even when you were a mezzo, what are your fun party pieces that you like to sing that are just like playing around and being silly?
Well, I've always loved Quando Menvo because I
Mhm.
think Rosetta is fabulous. And I liked. I mean, we talked about Eileen Bettis. I like to imitate her um, all the time because she was. I mean, she was the first like really good soprano I'd heard that close to my face. So it'd always be like, oh, like just yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that was the first aria that I thought of when I asked that question. I'm glad that you said the one that I was thinking of, because I remember at one point in a lesson with me, you were like, "Yeah, well, I like playing around with Quando." I was like, "Sing a little bit of it. Let me hear what you sound like." And you busted into this musetta that was like, my first thought was like, "That sounds like you could be singing that anywhere, like literally anywhere." It was so free and it was so beautiful and it was so uninhibited because you felt like you were just playing around, right? You
Mhm.
weren't trying to sing well. You weren't trying to sing correctly. You were just
Right,
like, "This is what I sound like when I just goof off."
right.
And in
And
that
have
moment that was when I went, "There is not a single doubt in my mind that that you're not a soprano. You are a soprano." I don't know how, um, long after that I sort of said, "We're gonna do this, and I want you to sort of deal with this." So, talk to me about the transition that you had to make mentally and, artistically to sort of come to the realization that you really are a soprano.
well, it still feels wrong, but only a little bit.
Feels wrong how? Not vocally, I don't think.
No, 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 no. Vocally, it feels great. It's just more like, oh, I'm just a soprano. I used to be
I
like
now,
special, and like
I
now I'm just a soprano.
so do you think that Anamafo was just a soprano or that
No,
just a soprano? Please.
okay, but it's fine. I had built my whole identity around being a high lyric mezzo who was good at the boys and you know could do Rosina, and like I had built like my opera personality upon those roles and and being called a soprano, and I wasn't a soprano. Um, so to put all this wall that I had built around myself of defense to prove that I was a mezzo, um, it was really hard to take it down. It was really hard to accept that all those people were right and I was wrong, and that it's okay, and that it's better this way. You're not a failure for thinking you were a mezzo as long as you were, because you had a ton of tension and it's okay, and that's what happens. And yeah, that was the mental switch. It was just because you were right. I mean, I had more fun fake singing Sempre Libera than I did ever singing Una Voce. Period. Una Voce gives me heart palpitations. Like,
Well, and you mentioned that, you would listen to these different singers and that you would then try to, I mean, even with Eileen, you say, you kind of imitate. Well, I have a little, section of a book that I wanna just read a little bit of. This little vocal wisdom book by Lamperti. There's a little chapter called "Know Thyself." You gain nothing by imitating another. Your physical machinery will finally rebel against a foreign idea. A slow, gradual growth, an evolution, is the only safe way to advance.
hmm.
So, thinking about that, um, what has your evolution sort of been within the last, oh, I don't know, year, now that you've sort of focused your energies towards being a soprano? I mean, you mentioned recently that your repertoire now is looking like Don Elvira, Susanna, Carlisle Floyd, um, Musetta. from La Boheme.
The best one.
What else? What Je dis,
Yeah,
Micaela from Carmen.
um, yeah. What was the question? I got excited
Lifting those those roles.
about
What has that transition felt like? Where you're no longer trying to
Right.
imitate something that you thought you should sound like.
Well, I still imitate sometimes, and I have to stop. Um, don't sing like that. That's not what you sound like.
Mhm.
Just the soprano version. Um, well, we started this journey really. This whole trying soprano stuff started last December. Remember,
Yeah,
I had the whole audition season, and then we took the Christmas break to experiment.
right.
Um, it's been it's been enlightening. So I took a break from singing for a little bit when COVID hit, as I'm sure most people did.
I
I
think
was
we
already
all
starting to work on stuff the first half of the year, but I was still pushing too much in my middle. I was still driving up like a mezzo instead of like a soprano, and everyone kept telling me you need to this and sorry, this looks better on camera.
that
Um,
looks like a jellyfish. Can you explain what that actually is?
voice floating on the air. Let the air take you there.
As opposed to yeah.
It's okay. That's my default. Hashtag xjock. Like here we are.
Mhm.
Um, so and then when COVID hit, I took a break, a vocal break, and started just working on some art songs. I saw a bunch of coaches in New York right before COVID, and they all told me you should just start working on art songs, like because you're relearning how to sing. So I would work on some of the art songs that I assigned to my high school students and think about, well, what would I tell my high school student based on what it feels like right now? And worked a bit on some Care Salve to really force myself to not drive so much in my segundo pasaggio, like because I used to just push through it, and I needed to learn how to and focus more through it. And it was difficult. It was difficult to do it, but I think all the work that we've done, plus the fact that I've also been teaching on the side as long as I have, like I knew what to tell myself to do. I was like, you're doing this, you need to do this, you know how to do that. So I worked a lot on getting my voice to work more, even more from the top down instead of so bottom up.
Yeah.
And I worked on realigning my whole middle range to be a lot more head voice driven, a lot more air driven, um, to really focus on creating space for my vowels in the top half of my face, in the soft palate, and not letting any tension here come into play. Yeah, I really felt like I was realigning my voice even more from the top than I ever have before.
Yeah.
And it's freed everything up a lot. And now we're working on this part.
Mhm. That's I mean, it's so, what is the right word? It makes me, as someone who cares greatly about you and who has worked so hard to try to sort of help you through these different transitions, it makes me so happy to hear the that you understand all of the things that we work through, of course, but also that you've understood them to the place where now you're able to teach those concepts. And I feel if anybody, first, I mean, you shouldn't teach unless you love teaching, obviously. Nobody wants to study with somebody who hates teaching. um,
No.
but if you do love teaching, I'm sure everyone would agree with this, that I've never sung as better as I sing right now because I'm reaffirming the concepts and the ideas in which I use in my own singing on a daily basis, teaching my students. And I think that when you have the opportunity to speak those and explain those and deal with the different, people in front of you that might be going through their own things, but then to creatively find ways of navigating, okay, how do I get them to stop doing this so that they can do this? Because knowing that this is the goal, right? Um, whether that's ridding them of jaw tension or tongue tension or getting them to think of the vowel being different. The more ways that you can creatively come up with that, and I see you doing it. Each lesson that we have is better and better and better and better as you continue to work with your studio, which is awesome. It's like everything is working together.
Yeah. I also
And
practice
and
now.
I'm
Key.
Well, it's also great to know what to practice, right? I think oftentimes, like I remember when I was an undergrad, I didn't know what I should be practicing. Like, all these people would go into the practice rooms and they had like I mean, obviously, if you have a piece that you're working on, you need to memorize it or you need to, but like other than that, like I didn't know specifically what technical things I was trying to
Mhm,
accomplish. And as one of my former teachers used to always say, practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
mhm.
Not that I think as singers or musicians that we're ever really after perfection. I don't think anybody would want to hear a robotic perfected, performance. But at the different variety of skill sets that we're trying to achieve in that way, I think it's really important to understand what it is that our goals are. And yeah, how would you, we're sort of needing to wrap up here quickly, but how would you advise others who might be a few steps behind you that are trying to navigate this young artist career and sort of looking ahead? What sort of advice would you give them?
Well, I mean, the first and most obvious piece of advice is, don't give up. If you really love doing this, um, you have just keep working. It'll pay off. Someone will notice you. Um, I mean, Marilla noticed me, and all the work that I do. And I had a couple jobs lined up, but they got canceled because of COVID. Yay! But
Mhm.
people will notice, and it may not be the people that you think are important at that time, and it may not be the rung on the ladder that you think you should be climbing. Um, but if you think of it as a ladder, it's going to be soul crushing. So don't think of it as a ladder. Think of it as, you know, a good thing that can happen. Um, but don't lose sight of your goals, of the work. Practice, practice. um, is important. And practice your technique. It's not all about how many roles do you know. It doesn't matter how many roles you know if you can't sing. Period. I mean, take it from someone who had to switch Fox at my age and be constantly questioned. Like, singing is important. When they tell you that you need to be able to sing to get the job, they're not lying. So take a look at your work. Do you sound like someone that you would want to listen to? I did not get any jobs that I thought, like that I didn't have to pay for until I sounded like someone that I wanted to listen to. Not, oh yeah, I'm sounding better, but like, do you want to go see that person sing? That's when you're going to get noticed. So if you're not there yet, keep working. Don't let people get you down. Do whatever job you need to do to pay for all of that, but you know, keep working. Don't give up. It's going to be hard. And BrennanBlankenship.com, contact me, tell me, let's talk about it. Um, I'm here. But yeah, just keep working, keep your goals in mind. And once you sound like someone you would want to go hear, then you're doing it.
Well, I think we also have to trust those around us, right? We have to build a
Yeah.
team of people who we can put our trust in because, you say until you hear, you sound like somebody that you would want to hear. In order to do that, we also have to understand that what you're saying is when you listen to yourself in recordings,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we mustn't,
Recordings.
we have to realize that when we sing, we don't even have the ability to hear what we sound like. And so
Right.
all singing has to be based on sensation, not what we hear. But as you practice, and I'm trying to encourage all of my students to do this, record yourself practicing,
Right.
right? Talk to yourself during those practice sessions about what you feel that you're doing, what's being proactively sought after,
Mhm.
how sing the phrase or sing the exercise, and then comment. What did that feel like? Did I feel like was that successful, or did that feel a little sludgy, or how did that feel? So that you can then go back and listen and say, oh yeah, I was putting way too much effort into that. I need to lighten that up a little bit. So it's important that you have, let's say, a skill set of practicing, and
And good ears. You need teachers with good ears. That is, like you said, having a team. Assemble a really great team. Um, that is, I mean, that is the key to how I finally sounded like I wanted to sound, was that I was able to get a good team of people to help me sing good. Thanks, thanks, Weston, for helping me sing good.
well, here in Texas, that's what we're all about, is learning to sing good. And so I just appreciate you giving me money to help you sing good. That's good.
I appreciate it so much.
Well,
All
looking ahead to the future, what are some of the things that you're excited about?
I'm super excited about the virtual auditions that the Young Artist programs are doing this year. They have all gotten together and have all agreed that everyone only needs to submit two of whatever. And that then if you get called back, whoever calls you back they'll all choose the same pieces. So you only have to record those callback pieces.
Hmm.
And then if they want to hear you in person, that's when you go. Um, I'm really, COVID's been really devastating to our entire industry, but silver lining, I don't have to fly to New York 5 times. That's cool.
Or 500.
Wait, what year is it? um, so I'm excited about that. I'm really, really, really excited to get to sing Quando Menvo for real for people because Musetta is the best. She's my gal. And yeah, I'm excited to see people in real life at some point, like everybody.
I think we all are. I think we're all ready for someone to come up with solutions, and they have started, right?
Yeah,
There are people and creative minds working to see how we can even begin to present opera now in the United States,
right.
whether that be digitally or whether that be at a drive-in movie theater, or
Mhm.
uh, however it might be. But I am excited to work with you, especially in the Susanna and the Jadi and all this new rep, and getting you ready for those auditions. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Well,
Yeah,
I can't thank you enough for offering your perspective in all of this. I think it's really interesting for, hopefully, for everybody to hear sort of from the young artist side of things, as opposed to those more established singers. I was going to say something far more detrimental, self-deprecating upon my age, but I'll just say more established singers and what we've experienced.
yeah,
But I can only imagine what it must be like, especially with everything that's recently happened in the industry, to be pursuing this as a career right now. And I think that it's great for people to hear the positivity that you bring, and the creative ideas, and you have a great head on your shoulders. And I think that it's important for other people to realize that these things that you mention about practicing and getting a job so that you can pay for this stuff, and et cetera. I think those are all really important things for people to take home and
yeah.
realize that yeah, this career costs some money. um,
Mhm.
your mom
But
says,
you're not.
when are the
But
auditions?
but if you don't make anything at 25, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to. I thought I needed to be at the Met by 27. You're fine, honey. It's okay. Just keep working. Teach those high schoolers or whatever your day job is, and it'll be great.
That's great. Well, thanks again for being with us, and
Thanks a lot.
thank you everyone for tuning in. Danielle Ferguson Travis says, "Love this interview." Your mom says, "When are the auditions? Love y'all." I don't
Wow.
know. Is Melinda planning on throwing her hat into the ring? You going to do some auditions? Gray says, "Go Brennan, go." Kelly Gephardt says, "You found a great teacher." Oh, you found a great teacher in Weston, Brennan. I wish you all the best in your life and career. That's very sweet.
Kelly.
Lemmy Pulliams, feet equals dogs, or Pat and Ben. I
Pat
don't know
and
what.
Ben?
I don't know
Like,
what.
is the right foot Pat and left foot Ben?
Maybe that's what he means. He's
Pat and Ben
naming feet.
are hollering up a storm. Does that mean
That's so good.
that's amazing.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thanks again for your time. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.